Hey everyone, thanks for being here. This is the first kind of more free flowing stream type content that I'll be trying out. So I really appreciate every one of you for tuning into this. So we're going to be going through just broadly speaking what happened in the news in for humanity this week, what happened in the news for science, and what happened in the news for pseudoscience. And then we're going to open it up for everyone, anyone to join, call in with things they want to talk about, things that they heard in the breakdown from the week, things that they've been wanting to talk about with me from my other content. Really, it's going to be pretty open ended, whether or not it relates to what we were talking about in the episode. And yeah, if we don't get anybody calling in, we might just go over some trivia of some recent Wikipedia rabbit holes that I've been diving into that are fun to share that maybe wouldn't make for like a full based theory type video. So yeah, going to be pretty great. I noticed that we've got Zach B. Hancock in the chat, which is great to see because speaking of science news, Zach had a publication this week, which we will be going over later, which is just glorious. I can't wait to talk about that. So, first of all, let's just talk about what happened in the world this week. It's been a pretty big week. Not There wasn't actually that much huge news affecting humanity this week as a whole. Um, you know, there were some things that were positive, like in Medellin, Colombia. They started officially cracking down on some of the sex tourism that goes on there. And as someone that spent a month in Medellin just last year, this is great. That I saw some of the underbelly and some of the dark side of that in Colombia, and it was just really kind of sickening to witness from American and European tourists there in the country. So I was really happy to see them cracking down on that. We've got a few wars going on in the world right now. There were some updates on that. Like the biggest conflict in terms of the death count and casualties is the Israel-Palestinian conflict in Gaza. And there was some pretty horrendous headlines from that this last week. We had Israel targeting or at least bombing some aid worker vehicles. They claimed it was just an accident, but yeah, if you look at the pictures, they were pretty. The vehicles were hit dead on, so pretty. You don't love to see it. The U.S. even the Biden administration was knocking it and saying that this was unacceptable. But ultimately there was no policy difference in the U.S.'s support. Israel also bombed an Iranian general, an Iranian official in Lebanon. So you don't love to see that. I mean, potentially involving Iran into that area that's already the largest death casualty zone in the world at the moment. You don't want to see Iran get pulled into it and make it a more regional conflict. Of course, the U.S. might get involved in that case. So maybe Israel is banking on that, or they're trying to call the bluff, much like the Trump administration did with bombing General Soleimani and basically getting away with it with a subdued Iranian response. Israel might be taking the same kind of card from the Trump administration, and either it's a win-win for them. Either they get away with knocking off this Iranian official and get away with it, or Iran has a response, and then the U.S. is further entangled and will help to deal with one of Israel's biggest rival adversaries in the region. So you don't love to see that on that side. We had a little bit of news in the Ukrainian conflict, but not much. It seems to be heating up a little bit. We had a little bit of news this week in terms of the upcoming 2024 U.S. election. There was some buzz about Nebraska changing its laws for the way that they distribute their electoral votes. So that ended up getting shot down. That was sort of a GOP play in order to make it more difficult for Biden to get up to 270 electoral votes. That was shot down. However, there was also abortion legislation that is working its way in through Florida that might make Florida more of a competitive state for, Rovember coming up in 2024. So we'll see. The election is starting to heat up a little bit, but overall, the week in terms of news that is pretty impactful to the overall state of humanity, it was a relatively slow news week. However, that was Not the case for science news, which we'll be getting to in a little bit. There's one more piece of news item that pretty much everyone's been talking about, at least where I'm at in Texas, and that is the upcoming solar eclipse in the in North America. So in Mexico and the U.S., everybody's been buzzing with it, and myself, I will be viewing the eclipse in the path of totality at the Texas Eclipse Festival. So if you're there, if you see me, say hello. It should be a great time. So I will be out of pocket this weekend doing that. And I just wanted to share, guys, the Christians are not taking the eclipse well, not at all. The Christians are, at least the hardcore evangelicals are kind of losing their minds over this eclipse. And I want to show you this YouTube short, which I just found to be absolutely hilarious. And this is from an amalgamation of different Christians. So let me know if you guys are able to see this and hear this, because I couldn't stop laughing whenever I saw this.
7 years ago, went right across America. There's another eclipse coming right across America. It'll make a perfect cross on the center of the nation.
God made the first sign go through 7 cities named Salem on August 21st, 2017.
The word Salem, according to the Bible, is peace. So God is saying 7 times he offered peace. The next eclipse is coming. It goes through several cities here, particularly Nineveh. So first we have 7 cities called Salem, and now 7 cities called Nineveh. 7 and 7. 7 cities called Salem, 7 cities called Nineveh, and 7 years apart. Right in the center of the cross is a city called Rapture. What is God's message? It's coming very, very soon. There was an eclipse.
Yeah. So I thought that was so funny. Not only the fact that, okay, yeah, there are a lot of cities in small town rural America that are named after biblical themes like Nineveh. Oh, cool. Yeah, we've got someone in the chat declaring that they're here to debate. So I will actually be posting the StreamYard link for this in the YouTube chat here. I should have probably done that before the show. Sorry for the first hiccups here. But we will be getting into some debate in the latter half of the show. So if you join and you just sit back in the StreamYard, I will be giving special preference for those who are going to want to be debating versus those who want to call in and maybe discuss a certain topic. I'm still open to that. I would still enjoy to hear from you, even if you don't have something that you necessarily want to strictly debate. But there will be preference given to debates just because I'm a fan of debates, obviously. If you watch this channel, you probably know that. So there's the link for the StreamYard. The debate portion will be a little bit later. But yeah, guys, you just saw the Christians are losing it over this debate. They said there's a perfect cross when you look at the last total solar eclipse in 2017 in the US versus this one, and they form a perfect cross that's actually not a perfect cross. They don't intersect at 90-degree angles. It's kind of like a slanted, curvy X. But okay, I wasn't expecting Christians to get these details right. But they mentioned that at the very center of this cross, this perfect cross, there's a town called Rapture, and this exists. I thought it would be absolutely hilarious if I was not already going down to an awesome, weekend-long music festival for the eclipse in Texas. I would actually be considering going to Rapture myself and looking at who shows up. Who do you think is going to show up to Rapture, Indiana, for this? Do they think that the rapture is actually going to be happening here? I mean, I don't think there's anything biblical to base that off of. So it'll be pretty hilarious. I would just love to go to Rapture just for the sheer people watching. I think that would be, I don't know, guys. I mean, just having a camera and being able to talk to people in Rapture during this eclipse and seeing the look of disappointment on everyone's faces when in fact the rapture does not happen. If it does, then certainly the second episode of this streaming show next Thursday will be quite hilarious, but I'm not expecting much. So now that we've kind of gone over the last news from this last week, well, actually, there is one more point before we get to the science news that I did want to kind of touch on, because conservatives have been losing their mind all week long, not from the solar eclipse, but from Biden apparently declaring the trans visibility day on the same day as Easter and losing their minds. They've literally been melting down for the entire week just about this, thinking that Biden has somehow changed Easter into Trans Visibility Day month. No, Trans Visibility Day month has been observed by the White House every March 31st for the past, for the entire Biden administration so far. So nothing new. And it falls on March 31st every year. Easter is obviously variable. So yeah, it was a total nothing burger. And like the big conservative platforms have been freaking out about this for the whole week so far. I've seen it mentioned every single day. So if they want to continue doing this, I mean, they are obsessed with their recent scapegoat of trans people, which we saw in the 2022 midterms. Pretty much every candidate that ran off of this issue lost, like horribly. It was not even close. This trans issue does not seem to resonate with American voters. So if conservatives want to continue to go down this route and continue to try to demonize trans people and make them the enemy, and you know what? They're going to keep losing elections. So, I mean, it's dangerous, but it's a losing strategy for them. So, now that we've actually gone through the entire political and news affecting humanity from this week, let's transition more to the science news, because guys, I am so excited for a series of papers that was released just today. I think I might be one of the earliest science communicators on YouTube to be talking about it. These are the DESI results. And these results are particularly close to my heart because I know one of the lead authors for the DESI collaboration. And this is a huge collaboration. There's like over 900 scientists involved in the DESI project. And I took this a graduate level cosmology course from this guy. And so I have a little bit of firsthand knowledge for everything that's gone into these series of papers that have come out. And the DESI project stands for Dark Energy Spectroscopic Instrument. So this is the most precise measurement of the expansion of the universe that has been made using this method to date. Like, this is world leading measurements of dark energy parameters, basically, and different cosmological parameters. It's really exciting stuff. It just came out a couple hours ago. And here I can show you the press release. So I've had a little bit to try to go through some of the papers. They released 7 papers today from their first batch of data from their first year of DESI. So you can see here, it's the most precise measurement of our expanding universe. And here's a picture of what their data is showing. So this is the most detailed 3-dimensional map of the universe ever made. So when I say 3-dimensional, I'm meaning 2 dimensions of space and 1 of time, because the farther away you look, the farther back in time you're looking with these redshift results. So you can see here, this is the universe. There you can see that there's in 2 directions, and the farther they get, that is farther back in time that they're measuring. So they're measuring these gigantic, large-scale structures in the universe, and like, this is the most precise measurement of these like ever done. I think that there were something like 6 million galaxies, which is like, hugely more than the last iteration of such an experiment, which I believe was less than 2 million. So this is a huge leap in data collection. And the cool thing about these DESI results is that the data has been made public. So as of today, different astrophysicists around the world can actually gain access to this data and start doing their own analyses of this data. So more really cool results and analyses of these data should be coming out. But even just from today, there are a few results that I really wanted to talk about because it was absolutely fascinating, some of the things that they showed. So if we scroll down here on their press release and we look at this image here, this is probably the most mind-blowing image. So if I could just summarize just on a large scale what DESI showed today in these newest batches of results that, I mean, put them at the world's leading edge of measuring the universe, right? So first of all, the majority of what they measured was in line with the Lambda CDM model's predictions. For those of you that don't know, the Lambda CDM model is basically the current scientific consensus of cosmology about our universe. Lambda is what stands in for dark energy. CDM is cold dark matter. So basically, what governs the expansion rate of the universe is the kind of interplay between matter, which includes dark matter, which causes the universe to slow down in its expansion and contract, versus dark energy, which causes the universe to accelerate in its expansion. So the DESI results match previous results from different independent methods that corroborate that there's around 30% of the universe that is matter. That's including dark matter. So dark matter plus baryonic matter is around 30%. And then 70% is dark energy. So the DESI results verify these numbers and put some much more tightly bounds. These are very precise calculations of these measures. They used it's called BAO, baryon acoustic oscillations, in order to get these measurements. And this was like the most precise measurements of BAO for the universe that have been done to date. So this is a huge step in our measurements here, and it confirms a lot of what Lambda CDM has shown. But there's one point that does vary from Lambda CDM predictions, and that's what we're looking at here in this chart. So first of all, each one of these different colored data sets corresponds to a different region of these BAO bubbles. You can kind of think of them as bubbles. They're very large scale structures in the universe that are left over from when the cosmic microwave background was formed. So I'll go into a little bit of depth on this. If you guys have any questions, I will, at a certain point, if there's any super chats, I will definitely be discussing anything that's brought up in super chats. If you have any questions, I probably won't be looking at the live chat at the moment, but if, I will be opening it up to questions and reading the chats in a second. So yeah, you can ask questions there, and I definitely will answer anything that's brought up in the super chat. So these baryon acoustic oscillations that I'm saying you can think of as bubbles, which correspond to each one of these little colored plots. Basically, when the universe was entirely plasma, every single where it was plasma in the first couple thousand years after the Big Bang, you get these waves, these oscillations that travel throughout this plasma that are a little bit like sound waves. They're compression waves, much like sound waves are compression waves in the air. And these are kind of from the interplay between gravitational forces, which cause things to contract, and radiative pressure in the plasma, which fights against gravity. So you have these two forces creating these oscillations, these waves that are spreading throughout this plasma universe. And when the universe cools to the point where that plasma condenses into matter, that's how the cosmic microwave background was formed. But these oscillations, these waves, didn't just go away. They left a permanent impression on the density distribution of this matter in the universe. And so these little bubbles, these BAO bubbles, were consistent throughout in these density, these like large scale structures. It's like, slight density variations, but they can be measured. And as the universe expands, these BAO bubbles grow. And so this map here is a measurement of different BAO bubbles at different redshifts in the universe, as in at different times in the past. So as we go to the left, that those BAOs are much more distant in the past than the ones on the right. And so let me zoom in here. You could see. So this solid line right here is a prediction of the Lambda CDM model, where lambda is a constant. So the actual dark energy factor, the dark energy component, is constant within the standard consensus Lambda CDM model. However, there are some alternate theories where the dark energy could vary over time. And that's what this dotted line here is showing, is what if dark energy varied over time? And so there's a little bit of ambiguity here, where it could be that dark energy varying in the past could be a better fit to this DESI data. this is again just the first year of the data, and they will be soon approaching their third year in operation. So in the coming months and years, we will see more data to see whether or not this is confirmed. But if it is, it could be you know, revolutionizing our understanding of dark energy because, you know, it's pretty common, I would say, especially among general relativists, people that specialize in general relativity, to say, you know, maybe this cosmological constant, this lambda, this doesn't correspond to any real dark energy. There's not this stuff out there that's dark energy. A lot of general relativists say there's no issue if lambda is just a constant of nature, much like Newton's gravitational constant G is just a constant of nature. G does not correspond to, you know, some energy out there. Like it's not like this quintessential field or something. The the lambda could just be a constant of nature, and that's somewhat of a popular opinion among some general relativists. But if it really does change over time, then lambda might not just be a constant of nature. There could be some kind of dark energy, some quintessential field, something that is actually capable of varying over the length of the universe that can affect our universe's expansion and indeed makes up 70% of the energy of the universe. So this is pretty big news coming from Desi. And this is not even the only revolutionary news coming from Desi this week, because I mean, this was 7 papers. One of them was on cosmology, but they measured tons of stuff in this DESI data. Like, this is incredibly rich data. This is world leading precision. And by the way, the DESI telescope was in Arizona at Kitts Peak, which I actually visited this last summer in southern Arizona. So really, really cool stuff to see this all coming together. This DESI release about dark energy like really made my day, because I know one of the leading authors that was in charge of the cosmology paper behind this DESI release. And I got to see kind of behind the scenes of everything that went into these papers, the amount of work, the crunching of the data and the numbers. And so getting to see the actual paper come out was amazing. So that was the first result, is that it potentially brings into question whether or not dark energy can change over time, or if it's constant like the lambda CDM model predicts. This has to do with the equation of state W for dark energy, which was predicted to be -1 and was measured at -0.999, like very precisely -1. But the key was that there's another value, W sub A, which is how this equation of state changes over time, which the lambda CDM model predicts to be 0, and which the DESI data, at least so far with the first year of data, suggests is actually negative. So really, really cool results there. But these were not the only DESI results. They also measured the Hubble tension, which is one of the biggest ongoing problems with the lambda CDM model and with cosmology, where depending on what method you use for measuring Hubble's constant, then you get different results and they don't overlap. Like if you use the local cosmological distance ladder with like supernova data, you get one value. And if you use the cosmic microwave background, you get another value. And DESI measured this Hubble constant. It had to use some other data. It wasn't just the DESI data alone, but with collaboration of other data, they were able to measure the Hubble constant, and their result agreed with the CMB data. So yeah, the Hubble tension has not gone away. I think the DESI results were between like 3 and 5 sigma, which is incredibly strong statistically. So this Hubble tension is real. This is a big problem in current cosmology. Like right up there with like getting the identities of dark energy and dark matter. Resolving the Hubble tension is one of the biggest current issues in cosmology. So this paper also allowed us to better further our understanding of this issue too. Now we have our first super chat. Thank you, Robin Webster. I see you all over, and you're awesome. Can you consider making Robin a mod? Of course, I can do more than just consider it. I can wrench you up right now. And here we go. Now Robin should have a mod wrench. she's always putting in work. I trust Robin. So yeah, of course I can make you a mod. Thank you so much for your donation, Robin. Now, how do I get this? Here we go. So in addition to measuring these cosmological constants from the total amount of dark energy, dark matter, and matter in the universe to the Hubble constant to the equation of state for dark energy, Desi did more. Desi continues to deliver some really amazing results. Again, these results were just released a couple hours ago, just today. So I still haven't gotten to go through all of them yet. I haven't gotten a chance to talk to the professor I know who is a leading author on these papers. So I'm really excited to get to talk to him more in depth about what these results mean. Probably by next week's stream, next Thursday, I'll be able to tell you any nuances or any updates on this. Really exciting stuff if you like dark energy. And the third thing that they showed, which I was pretty excited about, was they constrained the upper bounds for the total neutrino mass for all the different neutrino types as it oscillates. So this is helping us push forward our understanding of particle physics, of cosmology, dark energy. Like these DESI results this week were really amazing to see. And I know that, the American Physical Society did their press release for it. And this is a pretty big deal. So I personally loved reading more about these DESI results, about these measurements of these BAO bubbles, and, potentially shedding light on the nature of dark energy. DESI was awesome this week. That was probably the biggest science news, but that's not the only science news. And amazingly enough, that's not even the only scientific publication for this week that I know the lead author of. So I was really excited to see this paper here. Let me share the screen here, because it involves two authors. I think of who you guys are gonna know. Oh wait, sorry, wrong screen there. Hold on one second. Sorry, guys. So these two guys that you guys are gonna know, and that is Zach Hancock and Dan Stern Cardinal of Creation Myths, the YouTube channel, and of Zach B. Hancock's YouTube channel. So Zach is a population geneticist, and Dan is an evolutionary biologist. They published this week this paper together, which is like, it's like seeing two of your friends, two of your heroes be publishing together. This paper is going to be stirring up the creationist communities this week hardcore. I already know that people like Rob Carter, Sanford, who's mentioned explicitly right here, they've been put on notice for this. They're going to have to respond. For those of you that don't know, John Stanford is the creationist PhD who has largely originated the entire idea of genetic entropy. That's that evolution is impossible because over time the fitness of animals decays because of this genetic entropy thing, where over time the fitness, the mutations just go out of control, and their organisms are only capable of decay and eventual extinction because of the mutations in their genome accumulating over time. So I've had debates about this. I've talked with Donnie from SFT about this. Creationists will bring up genetic entropy to me all the time. It's pretty, it's not difficult to debunk, but this paper in particular is glorious, the way that they systematically dismember the ideas of Sanford as was responding to a published paper. So this is published in the Journal of Mathematical Biology, I think less than 24 hours ago. So this is still pretty new. It's pretty mathematical, but I think that most people should be able to get some of the takeaways. Basically, the structure of this is they first go over some equations that are fundamental to evolution, like the Fisher's theorem is central to it, and like the price equation that they use to derive it. Then they talk about how this Fisher's theorem and evolution has been misrepresented by Sanford in his paper. And when they are thorough, they are thorough. They go by systematically tearing apart everything that Sanford got wrong in his original paper, saying that each one of the things that he said was an assumption was completely off base. I mean, completely wrong. I mean, this is embarrassing for the creationists because Sanford is their guy. They're like, Jonathan Stanford, he created the gene gun. He's a PhD geneticist. This guy really knows his stuff, and he's saying that genetic entropy is real, and he presented at the NIH. And they always try to appeal to Sanford's credentials and as an authority figure. And this paper shows how little Sanford truly understands, or he's just lying and misrepresenting what evolution actually shows. But yeah, they go through all these assumptions which Sanford says are unrealistic and show that not only are they not unrealistic, they're not even assumptions that are being made. Like this is just completely wrong and off base on almost every account. Then they go and talk about what are the real distribution of fitness effects. And they go in, they use actual empirical data of fitness distributions. It's glorious to see it. Then they handle actually like genetic entropy firsthand. This is my favorite part of the paper because you always see creationists, including John Sanford, try to make these models, these simulations that supposedly show that over time genetic entropy is real and it will just cause the degradation and the collapse of species. And they do their own simulation using actually empirically observed distributions of fitness effect. And they show that, this is a completely realistic model for how organisms actually behave in population genetics, and showed conclusively genetic entropy is not real. Like, it's not a thing. It's not a real thing. Creationists are just misinformed or lying when they bring it up. They show that even when the vast majority of all the mutations are negative in terms of their impact on fitness, even when you only have 0.01% of mutations that are even slightly beneficial, you still have populations becoming like staying on those fitness peaks and and growing in population up to the carrying capacity of their environment. You don't have these massive negative side effects on fitness. You don't have this dwindling in populations to extinction. All that stuff is made up. Their paper's extremely thorough. It was a joy to read. And I haven't even showed you the best part of this paper yet, because the very best part of the paper is here at the very, very end, guys. They have a great simulation here, but the end. And by the way, I mean, this paper, before we get to the end, this paper is so funny. Like, there's so much, like, it's very professionally worded, but there's so much just like scathing little comments that like are just, they just destroy Sanford so much, and they dunk on creationism so hard in this, and they still do it in a professional manner. And I love, okay, so they have the main paper that they're debunking here is Bassner and Sanford, B and S. And I absolutely loved their use of BNS in this paper. Like right here, you see the third BS claim is that like they're using BNS for Bassner and Sanford, but throughout they're referring to these as BNS claims, BS claims. I could not agree more. And this paper is so full of little things like that that just made me smirk reading it. I cannot say how much I love this paper and Zach and Dan for doing this and publishing it, because anytime a creationist brings up genetic entropy now, you can just refer them to this paper that just so thoroughly debunks every aspect of it that it just is so hilarious. And the best part, guys, is the acknowledgement section at the end. I'll just read this verbatim. We thank Jonathan L. Baker for his helpful comments on this manuscript. We also thank Donnie Budinsky and Paul Price for bringing BS to our attention, as well as their continued encouragement in addressing confusion in the field. Guys, oh, this is too great. Like, it's just dripping with so much sass and sarcasm. I'm all here for it. Like, for those of you that don't know, Donnie is standing for truth. So like, it was just hilarious. They're calling out Paul Price and Standing for Truth for bringing BNS to our attention, and their continued encouragement in addressing confusion in the field. It's too rich. I mean, addressing confusion, more like, creating confusion in the field. But it's just absolutely hilarious to see this call out. This was just such a great call out, guys. In terms of science news, that's really all I wanted to cover. The upcoming eclipse, the DESI results getting released today, and then this amazing paper by friends of the channel, Dan and Zach. It was so great all around. So it was a really great week in science. Not a very good news week, unfortunately, but a great week in science news at least. And then there's one more thing that I want to show you before I open it up for anyone to call in and discuss whatever they want, whether that be science or pseudoscience, religion, philosophy, whatever you want to talk about. There's one more thing that I just had to show because it's a little bit relevant to some of the things that we've already talked about, and a lot of bit insane. We've been talking about conservatives losing their minds this week. This one is not just conservatives, but it's largely been shared by conservatives, and it's probably the most insane thing that I've seen all week. And remember that eclipse video that I showed you, right? I think personally this is more insane to me. And yeah, so this comes to us courtesy of Dan Bongino. If you guys do not know Dan Bongino, he has one of the largest conservative podcast platforms in the entire world. He's really big on Rumble, which is like the conservative YouTube. And yeah, I mean, this guy, it goes like Joe Rogan's the biggest podcast. Ben Shapiro is probably the biggest conservative platform. And then right under Ben Shapiro is Dan Bongino in terms of their reach and their audience of people watching him. And like, he's pretty far right. And he covered this on his show just today. And I saw this, and it was just one of the stupidest things I've ever seen in my life, as well as just being a completely wild and wacky conspiracy theory that was being shared all over Twitter today or this week, and I had to cover it because it's just too dang funny. So this is our lovable guy Dan Bongino here, and I'm just gonna let this play for a bit because it's really just worth watching. Oh my god!
I'm telling you in advance, I know very little about the science behind this. Why am I putting it out there? Because Sean Ryan's a great guy, super smart guy, awesome podcast. And this thing really got a lot of heads turned the other day. Here, check this out.
Really quick, Sean Ryan. I didn't really know much about this guy, but he has a huge platform on YouTube, and he is just as whacked as any ancient alien guy I've ever seen. Like just this week, he had a guy interviewing about pyramids in Antarctica or some crazy ancient alien thing. So like just hearing this endorsement, you already know this is going to be pretty crazy. Let's see who he had on this time.
Physically held a key that opened every single door in the facility. I had complete access to every compartment they manufactured.
What are you blowing the whistle on?
That there are technologies at the South Pole Station that people can't even consider that exist on this planet. Directed energy weapon systems is something that people need to get in their vocabulary fast. The Ice Cube neutrino detector is not simply a passive listening device as presented for the science that they're claiming it to do. It also has the capacity to transmit. There are embedded in the ice what are called digital optical modules, DOMs. They're about the size of a basketball. The array embedded in the ice is 1 kilometer by 1 kilometer by 1 kilometer. It is the world's largest telescope. And now, because we have proven that it can transmit, it's the world's largest directed energy weapon system. It is responsible for the earthquakes in Christchurch, New Zealand.
Yeah, guys. I mean, that was one of the craziest things I've ever heard. Just in case you missed the beginning of it, he said that this guy, Eric Hecker is his name. He said that he had the keys to every room in Ice Cube in the South Pole base, which I did a little bit of digging. And would it surprise you to learn that he was the plumber? Yeah, this guy was a plumber who started working with Raytheon on contracts that eventually ended up, he spent about a year in Antarctica as the plumber. And then he was also, because they're pretty low on staff in Antarctica, he also double dipped and had another hat as working on the fireman crew, right, to handle fires, like in case of fires. I don't think that there's very many fires that have happened, but he was there just in case. And as part of his dual plumber and fireman duties, he had like keys that would have access to the various rooms. Yeah. So this is a plumber, not a physicist, not an engineer. And he says, look, I know that the ice cube array is a direct energy weapon that was responsible for earthquakes in New Zealand. So this interview was several months ago. I'm not sure why exactly it's only recently been catching on, conservative social media, but they've all been sharing it, especially in relationship with the earthquake that happened this last week in Taiwan. I meant to talk about that earlier, guys. There was a big earthquake in Taiwan recently, just a couple of days ago. And yeah, the conservatives on Twitter, on Truth Social, have all been saying that this is a result of a directed energy weapon, which somehow is able to create earthquakes, and that the earthquake in Christchurch, New Zealand, that this whistleblower from the South Pole was saying was due to Ice Cube, is actually also responsible for the earthquake this week in Taiwan. I mean, this is one of the craziest, most insane conspiracies I've heard to date. I had to highlight it because it was just so hilarious. For those of you that maybe don't know, let me show you what Ice Cube is, because it's super freaking cool. So this is the Ice Cube Observatory, right? It's a neutrino observatory in the South Pole, and it's massive. I mean, it's huge. You can't really get a good sense of scale here, but this is over almost 2,500 meters down. This is the surface right here. And then there are these strings that hang here. And then these DOMs, which he mentioned there, digital optical modules, are hanging there. There's about 5,000 of them in this big array. Just so you know, like the Eiffel Tower comes up to like around, this thing is huge. It's absolutely massive. It goes all the way down to the bedrock in Antarctica. And they had to do it in Antarctica because they needed a very, very quiet signal. This is one of the quietest places that you could go where you're far away from any kind of disturbances that would affect the measurements here. So this array is also really interesting because it causes huge issues for the flat earthers, because the neutrinos that they typically measure in this array come from through the earth. They're coming from the northern parts of the earth and traveling through the earth to the array. So I don't know how that happens on the flat earth, but yeah, it's a big problem for flat earth that this thing exists and is able to measure these neutrinos. Neutrinos are basically like the little cousins of electrons. They're like very, very low mass. They really do not interact very strongly at all electromagnetically. Some people even say that they're kind of like dark matter because they're a form of matter that seems to have mass that doesn't really interact very strongly. I mean, DESI helped to constrain the amount of mass energy that a neutrino has just today. So this kind of ties in with that. But the idea that these optical detectors are able to transmit energy is complete nonsense. Like these are receptors. They are able to tell when a neutrino, well, there are billions of neutrinos passing through, like, every square foot of the earth all the time. We're continuously being bathed by neutrinos from the sun, but they do very, very rarely interact and are detected at the Ice Cube Observatory. So this is the best neutrino observatory on Earth. He was accurate in saying that you could think of this kind of like the largest observatory on Earth. I mean, it's huge. It makes the Eiffel Tower look like a tiny little sewing needle. It is massive. And the craziest part about this whole thing, right? So it's a plumber who used to work on the Antarctic South Pole base claims that this thing is not only, he says that it's definitely capable of detecting neutrinos just like the scientists say. He says he's not arguing that. He's saying that this thing is so complicated, meaning he doesn't understand it, that it also has another function. In addition to just observing neutrinos, which is all that this thing actually does in reality, he says this thing can transmit the energy as a directed energy weapon that somehow causes earthquakes. He doesn't quite connect that how. How is it that just directing photons of energy can cause an earthquake? He doesn't say. I mean, in reality, it would just get stuck in the Earth's crust. It wouldn't go very far. And if it's a burst of directed energy using neutrinos, that definitely does not cause an earthquake. Like neutrinos are not capable of causing an earthquake. Just a really strong ray of light is also not capable of causing an earthquake. None of what this thing does is capable of causing earthquakes, but he claims that when they first turned this thing on, they accidentally, he says it was an accident, caused the Christchurch earthquake in New Zealand. And now conservatives on social media have been saying that this neutrino detector is responsible for the earthquake in Taiwan this week. So, yeah, just all across the board, from the solar eclipse to the trans-day of visibility to the Taiwan earthquake, just actual events in the world are causing conservative conspiracy theorists to literally go insane in real time. And it's been happening all week. So that was pretty fun. That's the news in the world, the news in science, and the news in pseudoscience for this week. So we're going to open it up now for people to join. Again, there will be a priority to those who actually want to debate a certain topic, but we're going to let everybody call in. And if they have something that they want to discuss, something that was said today, something that's about the channel or whatever. So we've already got somebody backstage. So I'm going to go ahead and add them now. You guys, you know him, you love him. He mods on MDD, and he just recently started a new channel, Wavelength. Welcome, Justin.
Hey, how's it going?
Yeah, I'm like I said, this is the first time that I've tried a stream of this kind of format. So I wasn't sure how it would go. So I was super happy to see you join as the first call-in on my new call-in show. So thank you very much for joining, Justin. Was there anything in particular that you wanted to bring up?
I was looking for the coffee shop. I saw the name Grayson, thought it was an exotic brew, ended up here completely by accident.
Awesome. Well, hey, glad to have you here. So we talked about like everything from dark energy to the upcoming eclipse to the takedown of genetic entropy, all of which occurred within the last 24 hours. So all really big stuff happening this week.
Yeah, I don't know if you noticed, but when you talked about the Ice Cube laboratory, how you said it was cool, but you didn't laugh at yourself. I thought that was pretty funny.
The pun was not intended, but in retrospect, I am a humorous genius. Thank you.
Yeah, I didn't realize it was going to be a call-in format. I literally just saw the StreamYard link above. And I was like, oh, I'll come and join and I'll talk, because I know I sent you the link about the eclipse short that you said you were going to use tonight. I guess I missed you showing that part.
It was at the very beginning. It was the first thing
Okay.
that I shared on the stream. Yeah. I just thought it was too funny to see Christians losing their mind over, oh my God, the rapture is going to happen this week. And I cannot wait to cover on next week's show the abject disappointment when absolutely nothing supernatural occurs.
Well, the way I understand this rapture happening is that it's supposed to take place approximately 40 days after the eclipse. So the rapture won't actually happen until like mid-May.
Oh, okay. Okay.
The
Well,
eclipse is supposed to, apparently, according to some people I've seen or heard, it's just the beginning. It's the first step. It's not like an instant rapture. It's going to be like 40 days of, because, biblical stuff, it's got to be 40 days of something. So it's going to be 40 days of
it's just
stuff.
a harbinger
Yeah.
of the rapture to
Yeah.
come.
Every earthquake and tidal wave or tornado or car breaking down on the side of the road is going to be equated to this eclipse that takes place on the 8th for the next 40 days. And then you can go online and go, see, we're still here.
Well, we can all look forward to seeing that play out. I did notice that towards the beginning of the stream in the chat, we did have a taker said, I'm here to debate. I'm a flat earther and anti-evolution. Mercedes F1 fan. Where are you, guy? The stream to join is pinned in the chat. You are welcome to come on. It looks like he was
I
quite
think
mouthy in the beginning of the stream. He was
Mercedes could be not a guy, could be the girl Mercedes of whom you've already debated.
I have not debated Mercedes, the girl Mercedes. We were happened to be in the same like after show panel on
Oh, okay,
Matters
okay.
Now.
Yeah.
But
But
he's
the
been
verdict is out onto whether or not that's the same person. No one's actually sure.
Mercedes F1 fan has actually emailed me before
Okay.
challenging me, and I believe that it is a male. He also
And
said
it's not the
here
same
that
person. Yeah.
he accuses me of conflating conservatives and conspiracy theorists. Well, okay, if you're a conservative who's not a conspiracy theorist, I apologize for lumping you in, but coming from the flat earther, that's pretty rich of an accusation.
Mm.
The main thing I was saying is that there's a suspiciously large amount of overlap between these two categories. You know, I wasn't seeing a bunch of leftists on social media retweeting the direct energy weapon causing earthquakes guy. I was seeing that almost exclusively on conservative accounts. And one of the largest conservative podcasters in the world was talking about it. So,
I believe the way to categorize it is not all conservatives are conspiracy theorists, but all conspiracy theorists are conservative.
yeah, I mean, hey, there are a few like anarcho leftist, like anarcho communist leftist, or like tanky leftist who have some conspiracy theories out there. I wouldn't go that far, but just from what I've noticed, like the conspiracy theories that have surrounded the culture for the last few years, have almost all the ones I've seen have been being pushed by conservatives. So yeah, I
Well,
mean, if it looks like a duck, if it quacks like a duck,
it
it's
voted for Trump.
yeah, exactly. Good one. And he just chimes in with a quick spectroscopy is garbage. Wow. I mean, I guess just throw out all the spectroscopic
You've
data
been debunked in one sentence, Grayson. Just delete your YouTube channel and go home.
I'm gonna have to delete everything. I'm gonna have to rethink everything now because I've actually done spectroscopy myself. I've done like UV spec. I've done mass spectroscopy. I've operated this equipment myself to characterize molecules. I know it's not garbage. I know spectroscopy is consistent and works. And it allows us, guess what, to figure out what the universe is composed of. Spectroscopy is a pretty amazing technology that, like, literally no one in the field can doubt. So I'm sorry, but I guess Mercedes F1 fan has single-handedly debunked this entire branch of science.
Yeah. Did you happen to check into the eclipse path and whether or not it actually hits all of the towns it claims it's going to hit? And of course, the most interesting part is that the 2017 eclipse, in combination with our 2024 eclipse, crossing over and basically the paths meeting at the town of Rapture. Like, is that all factual?
Look, okay, I know for a fact that there's a ton of towns in America named the exact same thing. Like,
Yeah. I
I
heard
mean,
something like
everybody
50 towns named Salem, for
and
example.
and Springfield is like every state has its own Springfield. So it wouldn't surprise me, but I'm also would feel pretty confident in saying that like they're stretching things a little bit. Like they're saying, okay, this is only a partial eclipse. This is not a total eclipse, but it's Salem, so let's count it. You know, I figure that there's probably a lot of that going on.
Yeah. It's also
But
interesting how they discount all the other town or city names that the eclipse path goes over.
yeah,
You know what I mean?
I
Like,
also want to
oh, we'll
point
just
out
focus on the ones that fit our narrative.
I want to point out Titan Uranus's comment about how during the same time of the eclipse, CERN is going to be operating an experiment and NASA is going to be firing rockets. Oh no, NASA and CERN are both operating on a Monday. Oh, and CERN. Okay, first of all, this is an American eclipse. Okay, this eclipse is only going to be
That
visible.
crosses many time zones, by the way.
Yeah, it's only going to be visible in North America. CERN, for those of you that don't know, is not in North America. Like CERN is in Europe. So this is kind of just patently ridiculous on the face of it that like there's some big conspiracy about like CERN is just going to be operating while the eclipse is happening because the eclipse is not going to be visible in Europe. It's not a big deal in Europe. I mean, yeah, pretty. I've seen a lot of the whole CERN.
I mean, I'm sure CERN has operated during an eclipse many times already at this point.
Yeah, okay. And Titan has corrected me. It will be Tuesday in Europe. I stand corrected. I should delete my channel a second time. And yes,
I'm going to correct them and be like, Europe is big, North America is big. It won't necessarily be Tuesday in Europe.
And Pedro also points out that they do get triggered with the Shiva statue. There's a statue at CERN, and they all think it's some sort of occultist death cult thing going on at CERN because they have a Shiva statue. I don't even think it is Shiva. I think it's Kali. But yeah, I mean, I've seen this for the CERN stuff. I've seen this from flat earthers a lot, where they think CERN is some sort of satanic ritual thing and all the data is fake. Of course, particles don't exist or whatever. I don't know. But I have also seen it from non-flat earthers. But guess what? Politically conservative. Again, I don't know why it is that being a conservative makes you kind of lean towards these wild, crazy conspiracy theories, but it does seem to be a certain trend. Again, not all of them. Some of these conspiracy theorists are leftists, and some conservatives are not conspiracy theorists. But there's a huge amount of overlap. Again, I'm still waiting for Mercedes One Fan to join. The call is out. The link is pinned. So far, again, he's been talking all this good and not coming through. I can even read his email because it was freaking hilarious.
Yeah, you've been thirsting for a good debate for a while, and you haven't had any takers, I hear.
I've been trying, man. I'm literally doing this because I kept trying to schedule debates with people, and they continued to ghost me. Basically, here we go. Here's what he said. Hi, I'm requesting debate. I'm Mercedes Fan on YouTube, demanding a debate to finally put an end to the religion of evolution and the false predictions and misconceptions. I am the epitome and the apotheosis of evolutionary biology scientists. We have zero evidence of macroevolution. I shall debunk you. And then I haven't heard back.
Do all your emails have that supervillain sound? Like, does everyone who email you sound like Thanos?
The creationists, man, they have this kind of delusion that they've got this sort of like, this narcissistic delusion of grandeur that they're going to, I shall debunk these evolutionary biologists. The entire world is wrong, and I'm the only one with the true knowledge. Like flat earthers are the same way, like Witsit, like they
when you read a spam email from like New York Candle or whatever, Yankee Candle, do you make the same sound in your head? Like, you will get 50% off on your next candle or else. Like, is that what it sounds like in your head?
Sometimes some of those spam emails can get pretty epic, I won't lie. But it looks like I don't know, chat, did you scare him off? It looks like Mercedes Fan he was coming out strong out of the gate. I don't know if he couldn't wait and he's just vanished now, but I'm calling you out, Mercedes One Fan. If you're out there, join the stream. You said you wanted to debate. It doesn't look like we've got any other takers though. But yeah, I thought that this was a pretty fun format to be doing these more free-flowing streams where we just talk about general news of the week, and both for things affecting humanity as a whole, as well as science news, and then just for fun and entertainment, we could talk about pseudoscience news. So, Justin, I don't know at what point in time you came in, but was there any news from the last week that stood out to you as being potentially noteworthy?
I mean, the eclipse to me is all that's on my mind right now. Like, I even booked time off of work so that I could try to capture it myself. Other than that, I mean, anything else just seems kind of not important. I guess a sidebar to the eclipse is like, I don't know if you guys heard, but like Niagara Falls is calling state of emergency and expecting like 1 million people to come to see the eclipse on that day. I think the
Yeah.
American side has even called National Guard out to help with it. I know
Yeah.
my mom was complaining that the hotels are charging like 10 times their normal fee because of it.
Okay, here we've got two in the chat. First of all, Mercedes One fan has rematerialized and says, "Are you
Okay,
ready to debate?" Mercedes One fan,
come
yes,
on up.
come on in. And then if Mercedes One fan does join, Justin, I'll have to let you go. But
Hey, no problem.
and then we've also got Titan Uranus saying that he will debate me. This surprises me. I don't know, Titan. What you're welcome to join on too. I'd love to know what you want to debate about because Titan is awesome. He's been on my chat for a while. I don't know what I disagree with about Titan, but I would be very excited to find out. So maybe Mercedes One fan just cannot figure out how StreamYard works. Maybe they're having to make a StreamYard account. I'll give him the benefit of the doubt. But in the live chat there, Mercedes One fan, you can click on the link to the StreamYard and you can join the stream and you can have this debate. I would be eager to talk with you. And yeah, I don't know if you heard Justin, but I will be going to see the eclipse on Monday. I will be going to the Texas Eclipse Festival,
Oh,
which
wow,
is
okay.
a big music festival happening in Texas. And they're going to be, in addition to a lot of like music, lots of sound stages, like a regular music festival, they're also going to be having workshops that run the gambit from like kind of more woo woo stuff. But like yoga and meditation doesn't have to be woo woo, but I imagine it'll be kind of spiritually themed.
I mean, it doesn't matter, right? For you to debate certain topics properly, you need to experience these things too, anyways, right?
Yeah, I mean,
Regardless of
I'm a
your
huge fan of yoga and meditation. I just
Mhm.
don't associate them with spirituality. But um, the there are also going to be workshops from astronauts and engineers in the aerospace industry. So
You
I'm
got
pretty
your Eclipse glasses?
yeah, there's going to be PhD. There's going to be PhD scientists talking about astronomy and the eclipse. So I'm pretty excited for this festival. I think it should be a really great time. That's how I'm going to be spending my weekend this weekend. So I'm going to be a little bit out of pocket for YouTube, but I will be back next Thursday. I'm going to be doing this stream show each Thursday where we go through news, science, pseudoscience, fun trivia, all of the above. Um,
Yeah, stick with it. Eventually, word'll get out that you're doing a regular Thursday thing, and you'll eventually get someone with enough guts to come on stage and sit
yeah.
one-on-one with you, and then you can just start hopefully, you'll get to the point where people will have to take a number, and you'll just be booked a month in advance for,
Exactly.
like
And Missing Mod asked if I could go on their show. It's an open room, and they have crazy people and smart people. Missing Mod,
you can't be
absolutely.
a crazy smart person, those don't
Yeah, I
exist.
want to know which one am I? Am I the crazy people or am I the smart people? But yeah, absolutely. As either a crazy or a smart person, I would love to join your room. So my email is at critical based inquiry. It's actually on my channel about page. That's how anyone can email me asking if I could be on their show or any kind of inquiry. If you want to debate but you're not available on Thursdays, seriously send me an email there. I have been really missing debate. It's not that I like haven't had debates because I haven't wanted to do them. I have. It's just nobody has been following through to actually do a debate with me. So again, Mercedes One fan is continuing this pattern. I mean, he's literally been in the chat saying, "Are you ready to debate? I want to debate you," and blah blah blah. And then, like, what happened, dude? Are you not able following?
I am
Clicking a
sitting
link?
here confirmed that the StreamYard link works pinned above in the chat, and that you'll eventually get on stage. Just turn left at the coffee shop, not right like I did, and you should have no problem.
Yeah. And Sterling Nash points out not to have the debater and the guest on at the same time. Yeah, we're not going to be doing tag teams. All of the call-ins will be one-on-one. This is not like a panel show. It's like a one at a time kind of deal. So yeah, so far no one else has joined other than Justin, but I've been enjoying hanging out with Justin. I mean,
I
I
mean,
consider Justin a friend.
I have a problem. I have an addiction that I need to come clean about, and it's
Oh, really?
I love a stage and an audience. So if there's a spot, I'm gonna sneak in. Asked Kentucky Atheist earlier today when I came out of nowhere, and it was just like,
Oh,
"Hey,
Justin, I got to
yeah,
stop you there because it looks like we may just have had Mercedes One fan join us.
all
So
right, good
he's
luck."
going by Flat Earth Bob. So we'll see if this is the one and the same. But thanks for joining, Justin. I'm
No
going
worries.
to let you go now. And we're going to welcome Flat Earth Bob to the stage. yeah, are you able to you got all StreamYard figured out there, Bob?
Yes, I do.
Awesome, awesome. Good to hear it. So you've been wanting to have a debate on many different topics, it sounds like. What did you want to talk about tonight?
Um, where do we begin? You believe in evolution, don't you?
Well, I accept it as a scientific fact demonstrated by evidence, so sure.
So you're an ape.
Well, categorically speaking, even setting aside evolution, just the actual criteria of what determines what is an ape applies to humans. Even if evolution is not true, humans would still be apes.
We're not apes categorically. We
Well,
we do
but
not
when you
share
say
any
that, you
similar
say that with a lot of
characteristics at
confidence.
all.
You say that with a lot of confidence, but if you look up what criteria differentiate an ape from a monkey, humans fit all of those criteria.
No, we do not. We do not. There are
Are you
humans
aware of
share.
what the criteria
Listen.
are for you to say that?
We can be in the same category as bananas. Okay, we're
We're
not
not, though.
bananas.
Well, no, look, certainly we are in a category of eukaryotes with banana trees, and humans are eukaryotes. This is a fact. So we do share a category with banana trees, and that's being eukaryotes. Are you going to try to argue to me right now that humans are not eukaryotes?
Listen, we're not bananas. Okay, we're not
I never said that
related
we
to
are.
bananas.
Okay, wait. Did I ever one time say that humans are bananas?
You're trying to make it seem like we're related. We're not.
Well, the genetic evidence would disagree with you, obviously.
Just because we share similar characteristics does not mean we are categorically the same.
Sure, I can agree with that. But genetic similarities do necessarily imply genetic relationship, statistically speaking, anyway.
No, not at all.
Okay, so real quick, would you agree at least? Let's just start small. Let's start off with a paternity test. You agree that genetic similarities in a paternity test with humans, you agree that genetic similarities necessarily imply a relationship, right? Just
No,
within humans, you would agree with that, right?
no,
Really? So you
no.
disagree? You don't think that paternity tests are accurate?
I don't think genetic information is a plausible method of determining relation.
So are you saying that you disagree with paternity tests?
There is a likelihood that paternity tests are become inaccurate or are inaccurate. So, yeah, absolutely.
So do you have what's your evidence that of a paternity test that said that two people were related? I mean, it doesn't even have to be paternity. It can be between siblings. Genetic
We've
tests show a
genetic
relationship.
genetic tests are so inaccurate at times. Like, I
Do
don't know
you
what
have
you're
any
talking
example of
about.
this?
I don't have any examples of it.
I was asking, do you?
Do I have examples? Yeah, you can look it up yourself. I mean, time and time again, people have said, "Oh, you're the child of this." They come back later, years later, they realize they're not. So it's like it's not reliable.
So you think that we should change our courts of laws to no longer listen to paternity tests as being evidence above a level of any reasonable doubt?
Are paternity tests 100% accurate and reliable?
Yeah.
They are.
Yeah, they will accurately determine a relationship based on genetic similarities. Yes.
Are you high?
No. I mean, are you? Because you're the one here that's doubting that paternity tests.
You're the one who thinks that
I'll
just
tell you
because.
something here, Bob. I'll tell you something here. I have actually never encountered a creationist that's willing to make the arguments that you're making here tonight. Even every creationist I've ever talked to will acknowledge that within humans, genetic similarity does necessarily imply a relationship. Everyone except for you.
What are you saying?
I feel like I've been pretty clear. Are
It,
you not able to
look,
understand what I'm saying?
if I put some cake on a pencil, does that mean the pencil is now related to cake? I mean, what the
That's
hell? This
completely
is
non
crap.
sequitur. It has nothing to do.
No,
It's not
it's
analogous.
not non sequitur.
Can you explain to me why what you just said was analogous to what we're talking about?
Because that's basically what you're saying. Oh, because I
It's not.
sprinkled some dust on this thing, therefore, because it has dust in it, it must be related to that. What the hell?
That's absolutely not in any way, shape, or form related to anything I've been saying. That is not
That's
analogous to
literally what genetic information is.
again, this is talking about the actual content of the genome, the letters A, C, T's, and G's, what similarity they have in order between two humans. And this will accurately and reliably tell you the relationship between those
Okay,
two.
hold on. Forget about it. Forget about science for 1 second. Let's say you didn't have any scientific knowledge, and I came to you and I said, "Hey, do you see that banana over there? Yeah, we're related." You would put me in an asylum
Okay,
hospital.
so if we did the same experiment of your hypothetical and we said, look, imagine we don't have any knowledge of any of this, and we take a chihuahua and we say, hey, this thing is related to a wolf, you'd probably also would laugh and call it
No,
crazy.
I wouldn't. No, I wouldn't. Because
I
I'd be
don't
like,
think that
you know
you
what?
are. I don't
I
think you're being
kind of
honest
see
with
that. I
yourself, to
kind of
be
see that. You
honest.
know, they both have the same. I can see that. But when you say, "Oh, that banana over there," yeah, you're related. You're just a nut job. You're a nutcase.
Honestly, I think that you're using an argument from incredulity here when you're saying, look, if we ignore
Incredulity.
all of the evidence, then it sounds ridiculous. But if you
No,
look at the empirical evidence, guess what? It's not so ridiculous. It's actually supported by the facts.
no. We all know that the simpler explanation is the one that is more likely to be true.
Your explanation is not the simpler
Okay.
explanation.
When you tell someone that we're related to bananas, you deserve to be locked up because you're mentally unstable.
Your explanation is not the simplest explanation. It implies
It is.
your explanation relies on adding an entirely new element that my explanation doesn't, namely a omnipotent, omniscient God.
Oh, what's wait. Are you saying a transcendental God is insane?
I'm saying that it is a more complicated explanation than mine, which doesn't
Okay,
involve.
Hold on. Forget science. Forget everything. I gave you
I
the.
know you've already forgotten
Hold on.
science. I know.
Hold on. Which person would you more likely to trust? The guy who says we're related to bananas, versus the guy that says, "Hey, look around us. You know everything is amazingly orchestrated. I think there must be a transcendental being."
I will go and I will trust the guy that is using evidence to support his claim.
Oh my god, dude.
Oh, I
You
know.
would
It's
go with
really
the guy
funny to
that
use
says you're a
evidence to support your
banana.
claims. It's very hilarious.
You would go with the guy that says you're a banana over the guy who says there must be something that created us. I mean,
If
this
the
is
first
fucking
guy,
insane.
if the first guy has evidence demonstrating the fact that we are related to banana plants, which is factual, that's what the genetics shows. We are both eukaryotes.
We're not
The other
okay.
guy
Listen, listen.
versus the
Oh,
other guy that doesn't have evidence to support his claims, I'll go where the evidence leads.
okay, if you and I are enrolled in the same class, does that mean we're related because we are enrolled in the same class?
No, and that's not a good analogy for what we're
Okay,
talking about.
so no, it is a good analogy.
No, it's not.
Just because I have some little sprinkle of dust of banana in me doesn't mean I'm related to the freaking thing. Okay?
What are you talking about?
Jesus
Sprinkle of dust and
Christ.
bananas. That is not at all what's happening. That's not even analogous
Yeah,
to what's happening.
what is happening then?
Again, it's analogous to a paternity test. Genetic similarities demonstrate relatedness statistically. The statistical odds of you having extremely similar genetics to somebody else when you're not related is basically statistically impossible. It's the same reasoning of a
Do you
paternity
think
test here.
it's possible that you can determine relation with something of the same kind, but not determine relation of something with of a different kind? Is that possible?
You could test this, yes. And there have been tests of separate ancestry versus universal ancestry, and they have tested this and completely debunked separate ancestry as being a possibility. And I can show you the paper if you like.
Uh, what?
Yes. So basically, for what you're saying, like if the genetic similarities were only within certain kinds, right? then you don't have a universal tree with one base for all life. You have an orchard of multiple different trees, each going back to a separate created kind that then differentiated into today. So, like cats are an example, right? There's a cat kind, and then it becomes a different cats today. So, if that was the case, then we would expect for the base of these little separate trees should not follow a pattern of nested hierarchy like if they were all part of the same tree. As in, they should not get all closer and closer together at the base. They should be in separate categories. And you can test
Why?
that. You can test that statistically, and it has been tested, and separate ancestry has been ruled out.
Why has it been ruled out? Why can't it be both?
I just got finished explaining to you exactly why.
Yeah, I know what you said, but why can't it be both? Why can't it be separate and um based on a similar foundation? What's wrong with that?
Because God is not a God of confusion. That's a quote from the Bible, correct? So
Ah.
if God had created separate ancestry but made it look like universal ancestry, he would be tricking us.
No, he wouldn't. It's like
Yes, he
me
would.
using, it's like me having a set of ingredients and then using that set of ingredients for every single bit of, different things that I create.
Well, no, it's actually not like that because yes,
Uh, uh, uh,
let me explain to you why. Because yes, the genome is all the same 4 letters for these different animals, at least most of them, A, C, T's, and G's. So you're using the same elements. However, the ordering of these elements follows a certain nested pattern of hierarchy that is exactly what would happen if there was universal common ancestry. But there's no reason for that to be the case if it's separate ancestry. So one, it's necessitated by universal common ancestry, and there's no reason for that to be the case for separate ancestry.
Look, again, you can have a subset and you can be part of a superset. What's wrong with that?
But if the superset, if there's no relation between any of those things, right? Then there would be no reason why your subset would all be nested
Okay,
within that
hold
hierarchy.
on. Is there a relation between a subset and a different subset?
There can be. It's not
Okay, well, what
necessitated.
if I told you that when I determined the intersection of these two subsets, I found nothing, but they share a common superset.
Well, that's not analogous to the situation
No,
here.
no, it is. You can have
It's
this. You
not.
can have distinctive, distinguishable subsets that have no intersection, and also be part of a superset.
Yeah, but that's why it's not analogous here, is that the subsets all do follow this nested hierarchy pattern of intersection. So the subsets do have more in common genetically than anything else within their superset. So there is that pattern. It's
Hold on,
not
hold on,
analogous
hold
to what you
on.
just described.
No, no, it is.
It's
because
not.
because the thing is, even though there's no intersection between these two subsets, I know that each subset is made up of ones, right? So I know that for each subset, each one is made up of the number one. Okay, so there is an indirect reference or relation. There's an indirect relation to each subset, but there is no direct relation.
Yeah. So again, that's not analogous to what is
Oh my
you're
god,
talking
yes,
about.
it is.
It's not, because it's not just that the relationships are that they're all using the same letters, A, C, T's, and G's. That's not the relationship here. It's the actual order and pattern that these are arranged in. That's the
Yeah,
similarity.
yeah, yeah. That's what I'm talking about. Like, for example, if you have a subset of negative numbers and a subset of positive, right, you will find the reciprocal. Right,
That has nothing to do with what we're
you'll
talking about.
find that -2 is made up of the same ones as 2 is in the positive set, as in the negative set, even though these are distinguishable subsets and they have no
This is
intersection.
not analogous to
It
the
is
patterns of
analogous.
genetic
I
similarity
can
between
see the
species.
pattern in each they share similar patterns, but they're distinct.
This is not analogous to genetic similarities and patterns.
You literally said they're related because we can determine some genetic pattern.
Similar patterns of similarities, yes.
Okay, you can do that with two distinct subsets.
When we do this in humans, It is consistent and reliably demonstrative of relationship. When we do this in between species, it's the same.
What?
That proves universal common ancestry beyond any shadow of reasonable doubt.
I'm not denying that. I'm saying
Okay, then there you go.
it's both separate and universal. I'm not denying that.
That
It's
makes
both of
no
them.
sense.
It does make sense. It does.
It cannot be both separate and universal
Why not?
because separate ancestry is not universal ancestry, and universal ancestry is not separate. These are contrasting terms.
They're not. They're not contradictory.
Excuse me? Come again?
They're not contradictory. You could be a subset, part of a superset. What's wrong with that?
I think that maybe you need to reflect a little bit more on what you're talking about because what you're saying does not make sense.
Why not?
I just described to you why not. Because
So
the supersets, right? What you're saying is analogous to universal common ancestry, right? These are not just like, okay. So again, you could have a god that creates separate kinds and makes them all look like they're all have universal common ancestry genetically, right? You could have
there
a
is no common
trickster god.
ancestor.
You could
There's no
have a
common
trickster
ancestor.
god that's trying to trick humans into thinking that all of these have a universal common ancestry, right? Like, if a god can do anything, he could create a universe like that, but that's not theologically consistent with the God of the Bible, who is described as being not a God of confusion.
How is it confusion to be
You don't think that
separate
it's
and
confusing for you to make it look like there was universal common ancestry if there really wasn't? That's not confusing?
no?
What? Are you
You
thinking
find that
about
you
what you're
find that
saying?
you
Did you put any thought into what you just said there?
yeah, and I'm saying in mathematics you find that. You find exactly that. In logic you find that as well. You find that you can have separate you can be distinct and you can be part of a whole.
Okay, again, this is not analogous. Numbers do not have generations. They do not have offspring. They
I
don't
never
produce.
they do. They do produce.
Dude,
You
this
don't
is
you
not
don't
analogous
listen
to
to me.
genetic.
Listen. You don't get 3 without going through 2. You don't get 2 without going through 1. What are you talking about?
That is not analogous to parents
How
and children.
how is that no? What?
When you have two numbers and you multiply them together, you're not taking their genomes and crossing them in a novel way to get your results. Okay? Two numbers, when you multiply them, will always get the same result. But two parents, when they reproduce, will not always reproduce the same genomic offspring. These are not analogous.
Okay. Okay, so what you're talking about is essentially truth. It's basically just you're talking about truth tables at this point. You have two propositions, and each proposition has any kind of possibilities. So what?
Are you serious? I mean, like, you
No,
really.
literally, you're describing propositional theory right now. You're saying that there's two propositions, and you're looking at the truth table, and you're trying to determine the number of the combinations.
Yeah, okay,
That's
look.
it.
Universal ancestry and separate ancestry are two propositions that are opposed and cannot simultaneously exist, right?
Why?
Either there's a universal common
What?
ancestor for life, or there's not. It's a yes no. These are not. You cannot have
I
separate
know. You're
ancestry
really
and
so
universal.
desperate to not. You're desperate to just, you know, make it seem like evolutionary biology is like anti-God. Why?
No,
Why
I'm
are you
not.
obsessed with
I've
that?
never one time claimed that.
You're trying to make a picture. Oh, these two can't be together. Yes, they can.
But you can still believe in God and evolution. The majority of Christians are theistic evolutionists worldwide.
Oh, so that means God is in. So you can have a God even with evolutionary biology.
Yes, most people do.
So why aren't you a theist?
Well, the reason I'm not a theist has nothing to do with evolution.
So why aren't you a theist then?
The reason I'm a theist is because for me to believe in something, I need good reasons or good evidence. And so far, in all my conversations with theists, I have not seen any evidence or any reason that is compelling enough for me to believe.
Do you think it's possible for us to know God?
I guess, sure. I mean, I would say that it's possible that God exists, and therefore it could be possible to know God. Sure.
Okay, so if there's a possibility, why don't you believe in the possibility?
I just acknowledged that I believe that it is possible. I just because, like, okay, there's a difference. Believing in a possibility and believing that that possibility is actually true are two different things. Like, I
Okay,
believe.
but what is the
Wait,
likelihood
hold
of
on,
it
hold
being
on,
true?
hold on 1 second. Let me just clarify this with one example. I believe that it's possible that there could be aliens on the dark side of the moon right now that are evading our detection. However, just because I think that's possible does not mean that I believe that is the case, because I would need evidence or reason
Okay,
to
what?
believe that that was true.
Well, but what constitutes as evidence?
Anything that empirically demonstrates the truth of the proposition.
Empirical evidence. That's what you demand.
Or I listed empirical evidence or like a reason. If there was some reason, it doesn't have to be empirical. It can be rational. Like that, if there was also a reason, I would also consider that.
Okay, so let's imagine I've demonstrated God. I've demonstrated it empirically. Now what?
Then I would believe in God if you have demonstrated it
You
empirically.
would seriously believe in God.
Yes.
So you would change your whole character.
Yes.
You become a different person.
Like I said earlier, I will accept what the evidence demonstrates. If there's evidence demonstrating that God exists, yes, I will change my belief and my worldview to believe in God if that evidence exists.
Do you think we would be able to have science without God?
Yes.
Okay, so how what how let's imagine that we didn't have science, right? There was no scientific progress.
Okay.
How would you motivate an atheist human to want to engage in scientific endeavor?
If they're motivated by finding out the truth, which I am.
Finding out the truth.
Yeah,
Okay. Well, no, you're not. Um,
I am.
the only reason why you're motivated about finding out the truth is because of thanks to theology,
No, it's not.
thanks to people who are religious,
No, it's
thanks
not.
to, I'm going to say it right now, thanks to God. That
You can say that,
humans,
but it doesn't make it
that
true.
hold on, it's because of God that humans have the motivation and the desire to want to learn and discover things.
I disagree with that.
Okay? And when you're an atheist, you are automatically a nihilist.
No, I'm
You
not.
don't care about existence. You don't care about
I
your
do
being.
care.
You realize, oh well, life doesn't really matter. So I'm just gonna go smoke pot all day.
I
Like
don't think that.
the only reason why humans develop the idea of wanting to learn and scientifically discover things is because of God, is
No, it's
because
not.
of the
Okay, wait. Come on.
transcendental.
You've been going off on a diatribe now. You're repeating yourself. Let me actually address what you're saying. Because, one, everything that you use to characterize me and my position there is not true. Like, that is not my experience. You're trying to describe to me what I think and what I believe, and none of it was true. And I'm telling you that straight up. Okay. Two, there are plenty of societies in the world that have not had a belief in God, and they're still motivated to learn new things and discover the meanings of things and find truth, right? There are tribes out there that do not have any kind of belief about God or gods, and they're still motivated to find things out. This is inherent in the human condition. This is not something that needs to be given by God or religious people. And the
Oh,
evidence
really?
does not agree with what
Really?
you're saying.
So then, why are all this early scientific discoverers? Why are they all religious?
Because of material conditions that enabled
Oh,
them
material
to make those
conditions.
scientific discoveries
Listen,
happen
listen.
in religious
I'm gonna
society.
teach you some history here, right? Okay,
I don't
it's
think that you're capable of that, but you can
hold
try.
on. Just give me 2 minutes, okay?
2 minutes
It's
is a lot, dude.
all right. Listen, just give me a minute, all right? It's because of God that we have actually gotten to this place right now. Okay, I'm telling you right
I
now,
don't agree with your first
people,
premise.
people, people back then, right? Right? They because of the motivation that God gave them, because there is a transcendental being. Because they believe that there's a transcendental being, and so they were like, I want to discover what this transcendental being has created. All right, that was the early motivation
No,
for
it wasn't.
science.
It really
Okay,
wasn't.
whereas you can't have that with atheists. What's your motivation? Nothing. There's nothing.
Okay, Flat Earth
There
Bob,
is
hold on,
literally
hold on.
nothing. And hold on. Let me finish. Let me just say one more thing, okay? The reason why you today think that you don't need that, or that when you were young, you were just interested, you're interested in the results of what theologians have done. Okay,
No,
that's why you're interested.
no,
Whereas
it's
if you lived, hold on, if you lived back then, where if you lived in an atheist tribe, okay, and there was no science, you would not be interested in science.
you don't know
You would
that.
not. You would not be interested in the truth. You would be just smoking pot and just, I
Okay,
don't know,
Flat Earth Bob,
doing
come on,
whatever.
man. I let you say your piece. Okay, first of all, you keep making assertions baselessly about me that you cannot possibly know are true. You saying that if I grew up in an atheist tribe, I would not be interested in this thing. Guess what? I grew up without any knowledge of God for the majority of my childhood. Nobody told me about God, okay? I basically did grow up in an atheistic environment, and I still had this innate curiosity about finding things out, figuring out how things worked. So, just categorically, what you're saying is not true. You're saying that
You
I'm
didn't listen to what
inheriting.
I
Wait, wait,
said.
wait, wait, wait. I let you finish. You're saying that I inherited this curiosity from theologians of ages past, which, first of all, you can again look in societies that do not have these theologians. They don't believe in a transcendental God like you do, and they still are making discoveries like and doing and carrying out, even if it's not the full scientific method that didn't come about until the scientific revolution, or like before that. You can make arguments about when that came in history, but there are certainly predecessors, and there are certainly tons of examples of people curious about how the world works and wanting to figure out the truth about the world around them. That is innate in just the human condition. That doesn't There's no necessity for God in that.
Okay, well, let me respond to that, okay? I've already addressed this. You're only interested. Okay, let's say, imagine you're a kid. Your first time you witness a
Okay, look,
car.
you're going in circles now.
Hold on,
People, wait,
hold
Flat
on.
Earth
Just
Bob.
just give me 1 second. Just give me 1 second.
But before you do, I just want to say one thing. People in the
Okay.
chat are saying that this conversation is getting frustrating and annoying because we're going in circles. Okay.
No. I just want to make this point very clear, okay? I'll close it with this, okay? That's it. Um, you're a kid. You see a car. It's a very complex thing. You see this big metal thing rolling around. You're like, what the hell? Of course, you're gonna be naturally curious about that. But the thing is, if you live in an atheist tribe with no science and no cars, no technology, none of that, you're not gonna be interested
Yes,
because
you
you have
are.
no motivation. You have no motivation. You're just gonna
No,
you look
that's not
around.
true.
All you see is a bunch of sticks around you. That's all you see. You're
No,
not interested.
no,
You're not
Flat Earth
motivated.
Bob. You do not have a reason to assert that any of what you just said is true. There's no
It
reason
is
and there's no
fucking
evidence.
true.
There is no reason or evidence to assert what you just claimed is true.
Just study history, study
I
anthropology.
have.
The
I
only
have studied
reason
history.
why, listen, the only reason why humans have only reason why we have scientific uh, discovery is because of theologians, because of the motivation that God had given us, because we
It's
are
not true.
curious about God's creation.
That
That's
is
the
your claim.
only way.
That is your claim, but it is not true, sir.
Oh my God, it's true.
Okay, so why don't you provide evidence or reason to believe what you're saying is true rather than just reasserting the same claim over and over again?
I'm not reasserting, I'm giving you a rationale.
No, that's not a rationale. That you are just
Really?
asserting the conclusion. You are not
Okay.
providing a
Okay,
rationale of
then
support.
explain how you were motivated as a kid. Go ahead, explain.
I was curious about how the world around me worked. I didn't know
What were
anything
you
about God.
specifically? What were you curious about?
Everything. I was
Just
always
give me an
asking
example. Just
why
give me an
questions.
example.
Okay, you keep talking over me when I'm answering your question. Try to be better about that. But if you want a specific example of something I was curious about, I would ask my parents, why is the sky blue?
That's bullshit. That's fucking
What
bullshit.
are you talking about? Wait,
That
wait,
is
wait, wait. You
such
really think that I'm
bullshit.
making that
That
up?
is such a bullshit.
How could I be? Why would I make something like that up?
You're
Flat Earth
making it
Bob?
up. You know, kid ask why the sky is blue. Kids
Yes,
ask
I
why is there
did.
a car or why
That's a
is there
very, very common
why is there a
question to
phone?
ask,
How does this
dude.
phone work? They don't ask what the fuck is the sky blue. Get the fuck
Okay,
out of here,
people in
bro.
chat, let me know. Did any of you or your children ever ask why the sky was blue? I feel like that's a very common question for kids to ask.
No,
I certainly asked
no.
the question. So basically, my response, you don't have anything to respond to. You're just gonna claim that it's BS.
To the sky being blue.
Yeah, I mean, I was curious. Why is the sky blue?
So
And I
that's the
asked
first
it
thing you
as a
thought
kid.
of. That's the first thing you thought of.
That's yeah. I mean, why not? You asked me for an
So
example.
you
That's an
remember,
example
you
of a question
recall,
I asked as a kid.
so you recall a moment as a kid that you asked that question.
Yes, I was at Wendy's with my dad. I remember the moment.
Okay. And when you were asking that question, what was your intention?
I wanted to know the truth about why the sky is blue and not red or green or any other color.
Were you expecting a scientific response? What kind of answer were you expecting?
I was expecting my dad to know the naturalistic means about why that is. So yes, a
Oh, so
scientific
so you're
response.
telling me that you're a kid and immediately you were like, oh yeah, the sky had to come from a natural process.
No. But
Okay,
again, I as
so
a kid,
then
wait,
do
wait.
you see
Let
that? Do
me
you see
answer.
that?
Let me answer,
So
Bob. Come on, Bob. I'm going to mute you. Let me answer your question. I said no, but at the same time, I did not know about supernatural gods or anything as a kid. Nobody told me about that as a kid.
really,
Yes.
really, really. So
Yes.
you telling me you never had an imagination?
No, I had an imagination. I was imagining like
Okay,
aliens and
so do you
monsters
think
and stuff.
imaginations are a natural stem from a natural process, or do you think it's just
Yes.
chaotic creation?
No, it's a natural process going on in the brain.
No, I'm not talking about the underlying processes. I'm talking about in the realm of imagination. Is it just a series of steps, or is it chaotic creation and just mm, mm,
It
combining
depends
and
on your creative process.
joining? Huh?
It depends on your individual creative process.
Okay, so when you ask the question, "Hey, Dad, is the sky blue?" You're obviously not thinking about a natural fucking process that
Yes,
can
I
hear.
was.
No, you're thinking about some beautiful creation.
No, I wasn't.
Okay, no,
No,
you were. Yeah, that's
that's
how the
not what
child's
was
mind
happening,
works.
Flatters Bob.
Yeah, you were. Yeah, you
Okay,
were.
dude, this is getting weird because I am me. You are not me. But yet you are trying to describe what my inner thoughts were as a kid.
Because you're a
Why are you
kid. We've all been kids.
But again, when I was a kid, I was a different person than you. My thoughts are different than yours. I was not thinking
Oh my
about this
God, you're
as
a
being
kid. You
a
have
creation.
imagination.
I still have a very powerful imagination. The thing is that as a kid, okay, I was watching a ton of Bill Nye the Science Guy, Magic School Bus. I was very familiar with scientific explanations for the things I was curious about. So when I asked my dad why the sky is blue, I was definitely not expecting him to say because God made it that way, because my dad is an atheist. I was expecting him to give some sort of scientific explanation for why it's
Bullshit.
blue.
That's bullshit.
This is
That's
just
fucking
incredulity
bullshit.
on your part. This is not an actual argument.
But how did you know he was an atheist?
I at the time I didn't know he was an atheist because I didn't know what an atheist was.
So
I
then
was a
why did
kid
you say he's an atheist? I expect him to give me a scientific
because
response.
he had never once brought up God to me as a kid. I was not familiar with the concept at the time.
Okay, so that means you were familiar with the what natural process was before asking that question.
Yeah, because I
Okay,
watched a
so
lot of science
what
shows
was the
and
time?
learned
Give me
about
the
science
time
as a
where
kid.
you give me the time where you fully understood what a natural process was.
I don't know, man. It's not something that I would be able to articulate as a child, but it's something like obviously as a kid, the only explanations I had ever been given for the world were naturalistic ones. No one had ever
Okay, so
explained anything.
you
Wait,
already
wait,
had a
wait, Platters,
bias.
come on, come on. Nobody had ever explained anything to me as a kid in terms of supernatural processes.
Okay, it doesn't have to be supernatural, but the thing is, you already had a bias. So you already had a biased outlook of the world, even as a kid.
Sure.
Okay, fantastic. So there you go, ladies and gentlemen. He grew up with a bias. He said that only science can explain things, and that's a bias.
You realize that
Um,
literally everyone on the planet has a bias, right? It's impossible to be a subjective experiencer of the world and
no,
not.
no, it's no, but it's important. It's important to
Okay,
consider.
Flatters Bob, now I'll just ask you. When you were a kid, did
Uh huh.
you have a bias?
Did I have? Yeah, we all have biases, but it's important for the chat and for the people
That's
that are
exactly
watching.
what I just
It's
said, dude.
hold on. It's important for the people that are watching to understand that you've had a bias since you were a kid,
Yeah,
right?
yes.
For scientific explanation of the world. But the reality is this, right? Most kids when they ask the sky is blue, and most of them don't, but if they do, they're expecting some supernatural, out of the world explanation. Okay,
Baseless claim.
no, they're not expecting a
Show me
natural
evidence for that
thing
claim.
because kids have imagination. They have a huge, vivid
I had
imagination,
imagination too, man.
and they did not. They would not be like, oh, the sky is because of no. They're expecting you to be like, God did it.
No, they're
God
not. I was
formed the
not, dude.
sky. He
You're
put
literally just
pillars up
lying right
there,
now.
and
You are literally lying. You have no
yo,
basis in reality to be making the claims you're making.
I'm lying.
Yes, you are lying. I don't think that you
Oh
believe that
wow.
you're lying. Hold on, let me be clear about this. I do not think I think that you do believe that you're telling the truth, but you are lying because you do not have the basis to make the claims that you're making. You feel like what you're saying is true, but they are not supported by any actual supporting evidence or reason.
Well, see, the problem with that statement, right, is you as a kid. I honestly, that's child abuse. You know, I think
Oh
it's
my
child abuse.
god, dude.
I think it's child abuse to teach your kids to think natural, that everything is because of natural process. That's
That's
child abuse.
child abuse to you?
That's child abuse because the thing is, you should be looking at the world through your vivid imagination.
I did. I had a huge okay, look, my dad encouraged my imagination. He saw me drawing aliens, and he went over to me and said, the universe is such a huge place that statistically speaking, the aliens you're drawing probably exist out there somewhere. And ever since then, like whenever I was drawing, I felt like I had the power. Like my imagination came alive, and I was always drawing aliens and monsters as a kid. I had a very good imagination, and it had nothing to do with supernatural gods or anything like that. And again, how would you respond if I said that I feel like your childhood, your upbringing, your parents were doing child abuse by trying to tell you that God was doing everything? What if I said that that was child abuse? How would you respond?
No, it wouldn't. That's not child abuse because it's true.
And this is a
Because
good
God,
point here. Dan Shire makes a good point. It sounds like you're tying God to imagination. Is God the same thing as your imagination?
absolutely not. God is a real thing.
So
Um,
why were you bringing up imagination then?
because no, I brought it up
Oh, oh,
because
oh, oh, now you're tongue tied.
hold on. I brought it up because as a child, when you ask a question, you are you're expecting an imaginative response. You're not expecting
Like
a
God?
scientific response. You're not
You
expecting
said
natural
earlier
process.
that the kids were expecting a response about God, and now you're saying they're expecting imaginative responses. So you're conflating imagination and God.
No, I'm not. No, I'm
But
not.
you literally just did it though.
I did not actually. But what I'm trying to say is, yeah, most kids actually will expect some creator to be responsible for this.
Okay, let me
They're
ask
not
you then. Let me,
expecting.
as we wind out, because I don't want to go over 2 hours. We're at an hour and 42 minutes. I would like to ask you a question then. Is there anything that could falsify your belief in God? Because you asked me earlier, if there was evidence for God, I said I would change my belief and I would accept that God exists if there's evidence for it. And then I want to ask you the same question. Is there any evidence that could falsify your belief in God?
Um. Yes.
Okay, and what is it? Are you on
I'm
mute?
just trying to think here. Hmm.
Okay. Because like people are saying that they're getting over this talk. People are asking me to kick you, but I'm enjoying this conversation. But you know, I would like it to be productive. Okay, I feel like we've kind
Okay.
of been
Look,
going off in the weeds
you
about
would falsify God if the Earth was not flat.
if the Earth is not flat, that would falsify God to you.
Yes, because
Okay,
in every single theological text, they mention a flat Earth, and I believe in a flat Earth.
okay. So all we just need to falsify a flat Earth then.
Absolutely.
Okay, so this has been done through many, many different independent lines of evidence.
No, it hasn't.
It has.
No.
For example, just the fact that you can even see the sunset falsifies a flat Earth.
Oh, Jesus. No, it doesn't. No,
So
it
why don't you
doesn't.
explain to me how the sun sets on a flat Earth?
It doesn't actually set. It's just perception.
So why do we see the sunset on a flat Earth?
Because of our limited perspective,
Okay, can you show me an
limited
example?
view of vision.
Any example where perspective causes something to disappear from the bottom up in the way that a sunset does? Any example?
Um, yeah. If something is large enough and further enough, then yeah, it would do
Yeah.
that effect.
It doesn't do
Absolutely.
that though. We don't see it disappearing from the bottom up due to perspective. Like what actually happens in perspective is that the object gets smaller and smaller and smaller until its angular resolution gets low enough to where it just disappears and it all gets blurry and
But
fuzzy. That's
but
not what happens in a sunset where it's very clear, very distinct. You see the horizon, it's not blurry and fuzzy. It's literally just the bottom half of the sun is no longer visible. That never ever happens with perspective.
well, as somebody who's been out to sea at night,
Mhm.
right? I don't know. Have you been out to sea at night?
Yeah, and the reason that things disappear at sea from
No,
the
hold
bottom up
on.
is
No, no,
because
no.
the Earth is curved, not
No, no, no.
flat.
Hold on. Have you been to sea at night? Like when I mean to sea, and I mean like you in the middle of the ocean, pitch dark. There's nothing but the stars.
I've been on beaches and piers at night, not
Okay,
actually on a boat.
okay. I'm talking about no light pollution, just pitch black. You
Yeah,
can't see
you've said
nothing.
that multiple times now. Get to your
Okay,
point.
fantastic. I have. Okay, and what I realize is when I look at the sky, my there's a curve. There is a curve when I look up at the sky. I don't know why there's a curve. I look up at the sky, and my
Maybe
eyes are
because the Earth is not
registering.
flat.
Hold on, my eyes are registering a curve. Okay, so to me that means that there is a limit to our perspective. That means that things that are further away and large enough will curve. They will go down. They will curve.
That's because the Earth is not flat. That's why that happens.
Oh, you haven't even experienced what I've experienced. What are you
I
talking
don't
about?
need to.
Yeah, you do to see what I'm talking about.
I have seen objects disappear from the bottom up over the ocean. It's just I haven't been in the middle of the ocean. I've been on a pier, but it doesn't
No,
matter.
no, 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 no. I'm talking about the visual perspective. Our eyes, right? When you look at the night
Yes,
sky
I
in
understand what you're
pitch
saying.
black in the middle of the sea, you'll
Look,
see
I
curve.
understand what you're saying. It's just incorrect. Like, if it was just perspective at all and the earth was flat and not curved, we would not see that. What would actually happen, like, there are actual laws of perspective, there are equations that detail how this works. What actually happens is the object just gets smaller and smaller and fainter until you can't see it anymore. It doesn't get obstructed from the bottom up.
So then, what was I saying then?
You were seeing objects disappear over the horizon
No, no, no,
because
no. I'm
the
not
earth
talking
is
about
curved.
objects disappearing. I'm just talking about me just looking up at the night sky, pitch black, no light pollution, and my eyes are making the sky curve.
Okay, I don't know what you mean by the sky curve.
Exactly. I want you to go out there at night, pitch black. You'll see what I'm talking about.
I don't
It's
think I will. I
perspective.
really don't think that I will.
Yeah, because you're a coward. You wouldn't do that.
No, I will do it.
And by
I'm
the
just
way, objects that don't move as they go back. They don't actually get smaller. If you put your hand out right now, if you put your hand out to the camera, all
uh-huh.
right, and you step back a little bit, right, you can tell it's getting smaller, right?
Yes.
But if you go further back and did that, you would see no difference. You would
No,
know. You
you
would see.
literally would though. It's
No,
called
you wouldn't.
angular diameter, and you can show in the actual equation for calculating angular size that it does get smaller with distance. This is
No,
just a
you
fact.
wouldn't. Because when something's farther away, and if you were 100 meters away right now, and you did the exact same thing you just did with your hand, I would see no difference. I
No,
would
you actually
register
would.
no,
You could
no,
measure actually. You could measure the
no,
difference in angular size. We could calculate it exactly using the angular diameter formula.
no. Your hand would literally look the same to me. It would
Yeah,
not
it's
look any
because
different.
you are not making a precise enough measurement in order to measure that difference. But the difference does exist and can be measured with a precise enough instrument.
Bro, that's bullshit. Show
That's
me.
a fact. I
That's
don't know
garbage.
why you laugh every time you don't have a response.
Yeah, listen, the precise measurement you're talking about is just theory. It's just mathematics, okay? It's not
Oh, it
real.
maps onto reality. Math
It
describes
doesn't. It
reality.
doesn't. No, it doesn't describe reality. It
It
describes
does.
our perception of
Look,
reality.
if
Okay?
you can disprove the angular diameter theorem, then do it. You'll win awards.
I'm not disproving anything. The point that I'm
Okay, and you
making,
acknowledge that that
you're
the
not
angular
listening to
diameter
the point
formula.
I'm making.
Wait,
Let me
if
make
you're
it
not
very clear for
disproving
you.
anything, hey, flat Earth Bob, if you're not disproving anything, then you acknowledge that the formula does map accurately onto the real world.
No, I can make look, I can make all kinds of formula. What are you talking
No,
about?
you can't.
Oh, the point that I'm trying to make is this, right? When we have limited perspective, our eyes,
Yes,
when things are further away, it starts to curve.
it's true.
Our perspective starts to curve when things are further away. So
And
as a result, when you're looking at the sky, you think the sun is setting. It's not setting. It's because of your
okay, so
perspective.
flat Earth Bob,
It
hold on. Let's
curves.
let's follow this. Okay, you're saying that it's because of limitations of our eyes. So what if we do a more powerful optical experiment, like with a camera or a telescope, that's more powerful than the eyes, that should be able to resolve further distances? Do you think that we can zoom the sun back into complete view?
Do you think we can zoom the sun back into complete view? I don't think that's how zoom works. And I don't think that's how cameras work.
But you were the one that said
Um,
that it's because of the limitations of our perception with our eyes. So if we did a more
no, no, no,
powerful
no, no, no,
instrument
no.
that's
I'm
more
not saying it's a
powerful than our eyes,
limitation. I'm not
huh?
saying it's a limitation. What I'm saying is, as things go further away, our eyes will start to curve.
Okay, so
Okay.
what about a better instrument than our eyes? What about something that is more has a higher angular resolution than our eyes?
I'm not talking about angular resolution,
Okay, wait, but you understand what I'm asking you about, right?
but I'm not talking about angular resolution.
Well, the limitations that you're talking about, like you're saying that the eyes naturally curve after a large enough difference, right? Distance. The reason for that is that our eyes are not accurate enough to see that far. But if you have an instrument that can see that far, then you should be able to undo the sunset. You should be able to see the full sun when our eyes can only see half of it.
What are you saying?
I
I don't
just
think that's how.
explained what I was saying.
I don't think that's how lenses work. I don't think that's how cameras work. Zoom, that's not how Zoom works.
Well, if the earth was flat, we would be able to do that.
No, the flatness is irrelevant if our optical equipment and our eyes perceive things curved when it's further away.
Okay, well, we can move on from sunsets because I don't think you're going to get it, but we can look at other
Okay,
data
go
that
out into
shows.
sea. You'll go out into sea and
Well,
you'll see what
okay,
I'm
I get
talking
it.
about.
We're moving on to a different line of evidence that maybe you can understand. Flight times, right? You should acknowledge, right? Like nobody's faking flight times. You can get a flight that cannot possibly exist in the time that it takes on a flat Earth. The actual, if you just map a map of flight times across the world, you cannot replicate that on if the Earth is flat. It has to be a globe for flight times to work.
What? No, that's not true.
Would you
Um,
like to show me? I can show you the paper that shows that it's true if you want.
the paper that shows that it's true.
Yeah, doing the analysis. Here, I'll share my
Based
screen.
on what model? There is no
I'll show you
there's no
exactly based on what. I'll show it to you exactly.
there's no consensus on
It
the
doesn't
flat Earth
actually matter
model.
because you can use any flat Earth model and they will all fail.
No, they wouldn't.
They do actually. Here you go.
It's just that
You can
on
see
a
my
flat
screen
map.
here. This is a
Okay.
great analysis showing exactly what I'm talking about here. So let me scroll down here. So it's estimating the curve of the Earth's curvature. So there's two models that it's showing here, right? It's using a map of the flat Earth, but it doesn't matter what flat Earth map you use. You can use any flat Earth map, any definition here. So they've got two models. One of them fits a yeah, here we go. This formula works for a flat model for describing the distances between 2 points, and this is the formula for a curved model. Now, if the Earth is actually flat, then this model should fit the data better than this formula. And if the Earth is not flat, then the second formula should fit the data better than the first formula. And what this paper does is that it plugs in the data from flight times, the time it takes to fly in between two cities, to estimate the distance, to fit it to these two formulas. And it rules out any possibility that the Earth is flat. It cannot be flat if the flight times are truly what they are.
Okay, what's your point?
The point is that the Earth cannot be flat, and by your own criteria, that means God does not exist.
The Earth is.
Okay, so you have no response, so you're gonna laugh? Okay, that's what I thought. All right.
I'm gonna end it there, but look, the Earth is flat, okay, and God does exist, and the sky is created by God, and that's it, man.
All right. Well, it was nice talking with you, Flat Earth Bob. I had a feeling that you were going to end it by saying exactly that. More baseless claims that you cannot support with evidence. So thanks for joining the stream. I do appreciate you actually engaging in a debate. It was fun.
Yes, likewise. Thank you so much.
Peace out. So there you had it. Actually got to do a fun flat Earth debate. I'm to no one's surprise, the flat earther would not listen to actual evidence. But you know what? It was fun. We got to go back and forth on topics that I love talking about: evolution, flat Earth. And yeah, this is gonna conclude. I didn't want these streams to be more than 2 hours, so this is going right up there at the 2 hour mark. So it was perfect. We went over the news that happened from the last week. Then we went over the scientific news, new science articles being published, which is awesome, about dark energy and genetic entropy. And then we looked at the news in pseudoscience and had a good laugh, and then opened it up, had an interesting discussion with Justin, and then an interesting debate with Flat Earth Bob. So this actually went, exactly as I was hoping. I got to have a debate. I got to have interesting streams. I appreciate Robin. Thank you for super chatting today. And yeah, everyone in the chat, this was a ton of fun. I'm going to be doing this again next Thursday. I'm going to try to make this a weekly thing. So if you know anybody that is always talking about evolution is wrong and they want to debunk an evolutionist or debunk an atheist or whatever, somebody that wants to talk about anything about the scientific consensus, any pseudoscience, any conspiracy theories, if they want to just talk about philosophy or consciousness or politics, whatever, I would appreciate it if you would send them my way, if they could join the stream and we could debate about any of these subjects. You guys know that I just love arguing with people, honestly. And yeah, I mean, I had a lot of fun doing so tonight. So thank you, everybody, for tuning in and making this an amazing first week of this streaming schedule. And yeah, subscribe if you haven't. I'm going to be trying to do this every week. Like the stream if you like this format. And yeah, stay tuned for next week. This weekend, I'm going off to see the solar eclipse, but I will be back next week. And yes, subscribe, stay curious, and keep learning. Thanks, everyone.